are there any thoughts as far as the resolution? To me, the basis, the real basis of the argument is that in the first tier employment, 1 to 5 years, 1 to 3 years of employment, the police and fire across the board are getting 40 hours of vacation time, just like the 40-hour employees. Of course, you all know that they work more than 40 hours a week. And so when there's an employee in that tier of employment, they're not getting a full week of vacation when the rest of the 40-hour employees are. I think that the answer to some of this is probably in the handbook to break the emergency, and of course that includes the communications department, the dispatchers, break the emergency and non-emergency into. The more I look at this, the more I think about it and study it, it's hard to compare employees that are staffing departments that work 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday, and departments that work 24/7. Because the 40-hour departments, there are actual off days. The 24/7 departments, there's not. And you run into all kinds of issues as far as scheduling and things like that. For instance, if someone calls in sick at City Hall, everyone there just sort of picks up the slack and the day goes on. If someone calls in sick at the police department or the fire department, it's not as simple. Someone has to fill that shift. Does anybody have any other thoughts as far as bumping that vacation time up? Is it something we can all agree on? That if you've got one group of employees that work 40 hours a week, and in that first tier of employment, they're getting 40 hours of vacation, that's 1 week off vacation, one week of vacation. Another group of employees you've got over here that work over 40 hours a week. Fires more than police. But as a group, emergency personnel, all working more than 40 hours a week if they're full-time. 40 hours a week vacation time is not a week off. If they're going to take a week off, they're going to have to use sick time to supplement that. We all agree on that.
Actually, the 40-hour week gets 9 days off. So when you say a week, it sounds like you're getting 7, but technically they get
2 weekends.
I can see how, to others it might look like, well, 56 sounds like a lot, but at the end of the day, they don't get to take a whole week's vacation, and why go and drive 6 hours to the beach when you can stay a couple of nights? So, I still stand behind the fire department. I stand behind the police department as well, but I believe we should up their hours. But at the same time, I would like all the council members to talk and to give their opinions so that the majority can rule and we can move forward.
I think when we came up with the handbook, we said there would have to be, as we were moving forward, it would be a living document that we would have to make changes to as we went along. And we've come into a roadblock or a bump in the road that this needs to be addressed. I don't think it was anybody's intention to cut them to 40 hours a week and that be it. I think their intent was to give them a week of vacation. And that's what I tried to tell several people that I spoke with, give us a moment to fix this. As we go forward, there are going to be things we have to address and have to fix, and how we do that in the handbook, we need to do it in the proper channels, whatever ordinance, resolution, however is the best way with our attorney to do that. But I don't think anybody at this table wants any of our employees to be mistreated, period. And it's been painted that way, and that is not the case.
We try to be fair to every employee whether it's the fire department, police department, or the other employees, the ones that works 40 hours. So, we have to come to some kind of agreement, sit here at this table, to make that happen. And, I've worked on it. I'm just like y'all. I have sat down and racked my brain on, trying to come up with a solution. And, I don't know exactly what that is. I don't know what everybody else has got in their minds. But, we're just going to throw something out and start from there and go. And so I'll get this fine.
If you're in the fire department or the police department, you're just talking about being fair. If you're on our side of it, it doesn't look fair.
Oh, I know.
When an 8-hour employee can take, like Melissa said, take 9 days off, take it 1 week, we can't do that.
I know.
And we can't even plan a week to go somewhere, a specific week, because we got to plan around our short week, long week, whatnot, take our family somewhere.
Let me add too, one of the reasons that the fire department was even eligible to, or was even in the running for this volunteer grant is because per industry standard, the fire department is understaffed. I know there's been a big increase, that's easy to see, but that doesn't mean that it's not where it ultimately needs to end up. Things are just not free. It's just.
And they're doing a great job.
They're doing a great job.
Great job.
They're doing a great job.
Yeah.
But they're running as tight as they possibly can.
Let me ask,
Staffing that department 24/7, they can't do it with any less people.
It seems to me, though, it would be kind of easy to game the system here if it's allocated on just a week. I know, me personally, I would take my vacation on every heavy week I could. So it's complicated here. We're going to have to sit down and really put our heads on this one.
Well, let's do it now.
For the officers, it's a week, it's 42 hours.
From a budgetary standpoint, it'll be a lot easier given the 2 hours to the police department than the additional 8 to the fire department. Just simply over 2 hours is not nowhere near as much as 8. And I want the fire department to have them take a decent vacation. I personally would be more agreeable to doing a 48 to where the fire department could get an 8-day stretch. I know it's not the 9-day stretch, it's the regular 40-hour people work, but it's close. And it'll allow them the extra 2 to the police department to get them back to where they were. And it's my understanding that the 42 hours for the police department has been in place for quite some time. It just never was quite clearly spelled out in the handbook, but
Actually, it was. And I apologize for that. It is clearly spelled out in the handbook that the police get 42 hours. That was, I completely looked over that because I was distracted by something else I did.
Now, if we were to move some of the liability that the general fund has to pay for some of the utilities on the fire department over to the fire fund, that would free up some revenue on the general fund side, which we could go and use to pay the additional hours on vacation and give them the 48. It might not be the full 9 days that's.
Do we not deserve the same vacation that 40-hour week people get? If we're looking to be fair, well, if you average it out, what we work a week is 2.5. If you average the whole year.
But here, okay, there's no way we can give you 9 days off the way your shifts are. There is one way of doing it, but it would decrease y'all's hours. And I don't think you'd be willing to do that. If we were to put you on a set 2 days a week shift, where you work, say, either a Monday, Wednesday, every day, and then have part-timers fill in on the weekend.
That won't work.
See, that would.
Hire a bunch part-time because everybody else works rotating shifts.
Oh, I understand that, but if we were to do that, we could give you your 9 days off. That's the only way I can see feasible of getting you exact 9 days. Now, if we were to give the 72 hours, that gives y'all 11 days off. Now, you got to look at it that way. Is that fair for the other employees? There's no clear-cut way of doing this. And I think the closest we can get is the where you could have an 8-day period off of work. We could get it to where you could get the full 9 days off, but we'd have to reorganize the shift to bring in some part-time help. And I don't know if y'all are willing to do that.
Well,
They're not gonna be willing to do that, I don't think.
no.
So, I
You
mean,
know, and we don't need to go down that road because we're gonna be left without a fire department.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
You know,
You're going to be a revolving door.
we've got to be competitive.
well, which one, do we give the 11 days or do we give the 8 days? Because you're saying you want the exact 9 days and there's just no way of doing that.
No, I'm just saying, we want a week off. We want the same week off that everybody else can get. When you get a week off, you have to schedule around your short week and long week.
No, but my job's not one where I work 24-hour shifts.
We just want a week. A week is a week for whatever.
It is what we're proposing, not a week off?
It depends on the week.
Well, no, it don't. I mean, if you're working
It
3
depends on the
shifts,
week we work. It does.
well, your vacation may be half this week and half this week. You're still gonna have an 8-day period off. Now, it may start on a Wednesday and go to the next Thursday or Friday. It may not be a calendar week. You might not be able to sit there and draw a line to do it and have the exact 7 days out of the week. It may start halfway during this period and go over here to this period. There's just no feasible way to give an exact 9 days.
But as far as the police and the fire getting a little bit more vacation time than 40-hour employees, I think it's justifiable. Their jobs are more dangerous.
And I believe that too. And I think that, I don't think we can afford to give 72 hours of vacation.
Step in where I'm wrong, but when they start a shift, they've got a regimen, this is in the fire department, of getting ready and getting that shift going. They don't just, and I'm sure it's similar to the police department, they don't just stop in the middle and say, I think I'll take the rest of the shift off. You're there for the whole thing, or you're not. So 56 don't do no good. I mean, if it's gonna be 56, just might as well be 48.
This shift's like 40. You get 40 hours off, then you get a shift at 16 hours. Well, I gotta come to work at 11 o'clock at night to finish my shift because I ain't got 56 is the same way.
Well, I think
72, it does sound like a lot. I mean, I know it's like, wow. You know, it's a big number compared to 40 and 48. But their shifts are 24 hours as opposed to 12.
well, if we give 72 hours and they can take an 11-day period off, is that fair to the other employees? Is that fair to the other employees who work 40 hours, if they only get 9 days and y'all get 11 days?
I'm not.
Well, if they not come to me and say,
Well, yeah.
I want the same thing the fire department gets.
But and I know the answer to this question, I'm gonna stand with my guys here. Are those 40-hour employees gonna get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and put your house fire out and cut you out of the car?
Well, did they sign up for that job?
No,
They could sign up.
They could sign up for it and they could go and do that.
That's right.
So, I mean, I see the difference, I see the
Oh, wow.
difference.
So there should be some added benefit
I agree.
or risk associated with the job.
I agree 100%.
Well, I know I'm gonna tell you that. What it's gonna end up being is you're gonna get a guy coming here, you're gonna pay for him to go through school. And when there's an opening somewhere else where he gets a better deal, he's gone. And you're gonna have rookies in here all the time.
Yep.
That's what Fort Payne's been for years. Josh, correct me if I'm wrong. Fort Payne's making steps to correct that, and that's what Rainsville's gonna become.
And you think if we don't give 72 hours instead of 48 hours, that our whole fire department's gonna fall apart?
I promise you it will.
I don't,
Over 24
It happened
hours?
at Fort Payne this summer.
one other component, and this is just something I've picked up, one other component though, is it's hard to compare Rainsville's fire department to a bigger department. Right, we don't need a department full of rookies, I call them rookies, or just folks with less experience. because there's no one there to pick up the slack. If it's a bigger department, and they've got a structure fire they show up to, there's 10 firefighters and you got 2 rookies in the crowd, the veterans can pull up the slack and cover their tail, or whatever the situation is. In Rainsville, we don't have that luxury. We need everybody in tune with what's going on.
We need every
And
person
we
in the fire
don't need
department
folks
to come in.
learning on the job.
I still personally contend that if y'all have an 8-day period for your vacation instead of an 11-day period, it will not be detrimental to the fire department as y'all state.
That's your opinion. That's your opinion. I'll say that. So, well, but those extra hours do us no good. 56, those extra hours do us no good because of the way we have to take our vacation.
Okay.
Is there any way we can attach a caveat that says that if you take your one month, I mean, 1 year you take it on a heavy month, next year you have to take a light one?
Listen to what he's saying though. Regardless, it's costing the city for 56 hours. Technically,
It's
when
a
they take
56-hour
vacation,
Saturday.
we're saving 3 hours of overtime. So regardless if they take it on a heavy week or not a heavy week, the money is still exactly the same.
That's correct.
We just can't do that.
Well, look, at some point in time, the employees, the fire department, the police department, it has to be a priority. It has to be looked at.
Going to 48 for police and 72 for fire is it's really not an increase. It's going back to what's been budgeted in. You understand that?
It was already budgeted in.
It's already budgeted in. This is not more money.
42 for the police budget.
Well, we're talking about an average. We're talking about their wages. We're talking about 42 is the average on their wages. We're talking about vacation time. 48 for police and 72 for fire. There's already internal restrictions in place that make them take that whole shift increment. That money's already budgeted in there. So another budget workshop's fine. It's fine. But what we're going to find is that that perceived increase is already in the budget.
It comes down to we give 72 hours of vacation or 48.
Yeah.
And I have a hard problem giving 72 hours of vacation time. It seems, to me, it does seem excessive.
Yeah, 72, it's true, 72 jumps out at you.
It does.
You just,
I can live with
there's no
48.
way that can equate. But the shift is longer.
But they have to work 72 hours.
If you want us to back down to work for 48 hours?
I mean, 48 hours, if our 48 hours up in your house on fire, pack up and go to the house.
And I think that's a little bit of a stretch, and I think that's uncalled for.
Well, I mean,
It's the truth.
It's the truth.
No, it's not. None of our first responders are going to just belly up and quit in a case of emergency.
Exactly.
And that's not.
And that's why they ought to be
And that's
paid
something that you're considering.
Well, and it is considered, but I just didn't like that approach of that question, and I thought that was a little insensitive.
I mean, I just think the police needs to be paid different, fire department needs to be paid different. It's a different type of job. It's completely different than somebody's picking up a dead dog. I mean, there's a lot of different way. I mean, me, I have no problem with it.
Are we settling on 48 and 73?
I'm not.
Seven.
If it's budgeted in,
Yes.
Let me just say this out loud. I'm proud that we've all discussed and everybody's put their opinion, and either way this goes, I don't want this to make any of the council members, either which way, for this to split or divide or hurt feelings. Like, this is a touchy subject, and we've all talked about it, and whichever way it goes, whoever loses will win the next time. I don't want the council to be divided over something like
I don't
this.
think it can be. I mean, we don't agree with everything that's done from everybody anyway. So, I
Right.
mean, that's why there's several of us sitting here.
Well, it's not a win or lose, I mean, it's a,
Well, you're gonna win some and you're gonna lose some.
but I'm saying this argument is not a
Right.
win-lose deal, it's a, how can we get this department on its way to, yeah, and growing into something that needs to be, but doing that within our means.
And if it's done budgeted, would be crazy not to fight or to go against it.
Right.
At the risk of making the police and the fire department people to take care of everything throughout the city if there are a problem.
Yeah.
There's no way I would be for it.
Okay.